Welcome back to another video. My name is Adam and excited to announce to you today this video is going to be about, of course, oil tankers and why I am so bullish on the oil tanker market as a whole. So the main bullish points, which I will explain and go in depth in the video, are of course inflationary measures, which are closely tied to stimulus checks, so-called the stimmy season, the upbeat Asian recovery, and of course that markets are forward-looking with the prices in oil and the prices in the tanker indexes. Okay, so before we get into this video, I just want to remind you to please smash the thumbs up button. It takes a little bit of time for you, but it means the world to me. And also leave a comment down below about what you think on this video. And there's a couple links below, like to my free Discord that you can check out and join the oil tanker community. Okay, so first off, we're going to start with the basics. NAT up on the week was up by 3%. On the month, it's looking pretty positive, which means that there's a positive outlook on the tanker market, up by 10% over the past month. For Frontline, it was basically equal on the week at about 0.26%, but on the month again, a nice upturn of 9%. And finally, EURN 5 days, it was up by about 1%, but over the month, it was still up by around 1%. Okay, so again, the first factor is, of course, inflation. All right, so with a ton of stimulus checks coming out to US citizens and things reopening up again, a lot of economists and people are going to think that the Americans are going to go on a spending spree once all the restrictions lift. And if this actually happens and plays out, what tends to happen is this causes prices to rise, especially of commodities and consumer goods such as oil. And we've already seen that play in the price of oil. If you're looking at, for example, the 1 year chart, the price of oil used to be around like $16. One futures contract even went negative for a little bit of the year. Okay, so it was less than worthless. And now it's like 3 times that, from like $20 to over $61. Okay, so inflationary measures are not only good for oil, but also oil tanker prices. Okay, the rate at which people can transport oil. All right, so that's number one. Okay, and that's very closely tied to, of course, the stimulus checks. And we can already see that sort of play out with the tanker markets. So these are the tanker market earnings in the spot markets. So what that means, as of right now, if you wanted to rent out, let's say, a VLCC carrier, which carries 2 million barrels of oil, you'd be paying $3,000. What I find very interesting here, which we saw also last week, is that the rates for Suezmax and Aframax vessels were actually higher than that of those of VLCC carriers. So we can see Aframax vessels are being spot rated out at $15.8 thousand compared to Suezmax at $10,900 and VLCC carriers at $3,000. This is an increase in last week's rate of $8,600 for Suezmaxes, and even an increase in the year-to-date levels, which are $7.6 thousand and $6.9 thousand for Suezmax and Aframax respectively. The only tanker rate that's depressed are the largest carriers, which are VLCC carriers. Note that NAT does not own any VLCC or Aframax carriers. They solely operate in the Suezmax market. Okay, so this is what I like to see, is that in general, there's a trend towards increasing rates in the spot market for oil tankers. And here I can zoom in on this a little bit. These are just the weekly time charter results. And we can see there's a bit of an uptrend, especially with the Aframax. Look at that nice recovery here. And Suezmax also following behind, but the VLCC carriers are lagging. But again, with the economic recovery, especially in Asia and the Pacific. So this was taken from a news article last month. So without the resilience of the economies of East Asia and the Pacific, there would have been no global trade recovery at the end of last year, UN analysts said on Wednesday. Okay, and so this is also true for oil, which is of course one of the goods that is traded around the world. All right, so what I mean by that is the recovery in oil that can be seen in Asian economies, specifically China. They emerged out of the pandemic first with the fewest deaths, etc. And so what that means that the demand recovered nicely. And a lot of people look to see that America is going to follow in China's suit as the whole world gets vaccinated and emerges out of the recovery. There's going to be an increase of demand, of pent-up demand that was repressed, of course, during stay-at-home restrictions or orders. Okay, and part of this has to do with, of course, people wanting to fly from one country to another, people wanting to go on cruise ships, which of course demand a lot of oil and a lot of oil transport. All right, and so I see this as a really positive sign for the tanker market, and I only think it's just the beginning. All right, and because tanker markets and the markets in general are forward looking, they're slowly pricing this in the market, but because there's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of things could go wrong between now and when the actual demand is here. That's why I don't think we've seen the full thrust of these tanker stocks just yet. But again, now is not the time to sell, and that's just my opinion. I am not a financial advisor. Okay, again, the next thing, of course, is crude oil. Now, this was actually, if you look over the past 5 days, crude oil was actually went down a bit, and that was because of uncertainty in the rise in cases of Roni in Europe, okay, and the Europe nations as well. Okay, so as you can see, it was around like $64-$66 a barrel, and then it plummeted down to 59, and then demand kind of, or the price picked up again, and now it's at $61. And if we're looking across the world at the cases, the viral cases, we can see that, of course, there was a nice decrease and downtrend in cases, but we can see the slight uptick. Nowhere near the cases we've seen where there was over like close to 2 million cases in the 20th of January, and now it's about like less than half of that at about 500,000 cases a day, but a still uptick compared to like 300,000 at relative to 500,000 cases. Okay, so there is a little bit of worry there, but I don't think that this is anything that's going to last pretty long, especially with herd immunity coming in with a lot of people being vaccinated. All right, and the last thing I want to share to you is, of course, my position in NAT. As we can see right here, I own NAT shares. I'm down by about 36%. I was down by about like more than like 50% at some point. But again, I do not think now is the time to sell. Okay, and if you take into account the dividends that I've received, which were about $200, I've lost about $500 on NAT. But again, I'm not selling anytime soon because of all these bullish factors. So let me know what you think about the oil tanker market. I may be completely wrong. This is just my opinion. Again, please do not take this as financial advice. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Again, please be sure to smash the thumbs up button. It helps my channel out tremendously. Don't forget to subscribe as well. And I'll see you in the next video. I love you all, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend.